Well, the claims have to be verified once again because there are counterclaims as well, and I don't think there are independent journalists yet looking at the situation on the ground. But obviously, the Taliban have shown pictures of their flag flying over the governor's office, of most of the districts having fallen. And the opposition under Ahmad Massoud says that they are striking back. They have taken to the mountains, that resistance will continue. And he made an appeal to others to resist across Afghanistan. So on one hand, there is clarity from the Taliban. On the other hand, obviously, there are counterclaims. The impact obviously means that the Taliban can now say that they have control over almost all of Afghanistan and that they can move forward with their agenda, which it must include at some point, sooner or later, the formation of a new administration in Kabul. There are a lot of expectations. So you have Afghans who have their expectation, the other political groups and the other political constituencies have their expectation of the Taliban to be included in a new government. Then you have obviously the regional players and the international community that has its expectations in terms of trying to tell the Taliban that it has to be inclusive, it has to reflect the different constituencies in Afghanistan, it has to have qualified people who can run the government, so on and so forth. And as far as other players are concerned, I think that there is, as I said, in the region, you have obviously a different look at Afghanistan, a different set of relationships. Like, for example, right now, most of the embassies that are open in Kabul, not meaning that they have officially recognized the Taliban, but they still have kept their embassies open, or just maybe half a dozen countries. They're all from the region. There are no Western nation countries that have yet reopened their embassies. So the international community has its set of requirements and expectations. It has made it quite clear. There's a lot of talking going on, and over the next few days, there is an expectation that the Taliban will announce something. It's one thing to say something and claim something and hope for something. It's another thing to actually prove it through actions and policy. So policy will be very important. Not only what kind of policy they're going to adopt in different fields, whether it's social policy, whether it's economic policy, whether it's international relations policy, and obviously political inclusivity policy, but it's also about how they are going to implement it and execute it. And I think not only the Afghan people are watching, obviously the international community is watching, but I am of the view that the Taliban of today, so far, at least over the last 3-4 weeks, have shown some shift and some mindset shift in terms of tolerance in some areas. It's still too early to tell whether it's permanent, but I think that we are not dealing exactly with the prototype of the Taliban. Well, the Taliban seem to have a strong grip over almost all of the country. Their flag was, as of a few hours ago, was flying over the Panjshir governor's office and the security building. There are probably, definitely, some resistance actions in the side valleys, and maybe it's right outside of Panjshir. You might occasionally see such actions across Afghanistan if there are still remnants of either the ex-government forces who are on the run, or maybe new resistance or old resistance forces who may want to reorganize themselves. But overall, I think the situation seems to be under the control of the Taliban across the country. But in Afghanistan, things can change rapidly without indications. At times, history has seen a lot of upheavals in the country. At this point, I think the focus is going to shift back to Kabul.
Okay.
Well, that's the big question. First of all, when is it going to be announced? Secondly, what kind of government is going to be announced? And thirdly, is it going to satisfy not only some Afghan stakeholders' demands and expectations, but also regional and international expectations of the Taliban at this point? There's a lot of messaging. There's a lot of rhetoric. There's a lot of statements that have been made over the past few days by different countries, different governments, and different stakeholders. And the Taliban are under some sort of pressure. At the same time, there are some questions as to whether the Taliban are all unified on the way forward with the government. There are rumors that they may have differences of opinion. I think at the end of the day, they will have to come together on a formula that works not only for them, but also for most of the other stakeholders. Well, I mean, that is what the Taliban have been saying all along. And they claim that they fought this war in order to end foreign interference, foreign occupation, and so on and so forth, alluding to the American and NATO presence in Afghanistan. At this stage, I think the Afghan people obviously are going to watch and see what kind of relationship they're going to establish and nurture with not only all our neighbors, especially with Pakistan, because of the special links that have existed over the past 25 years between the Taliban and Pakistan. And I think at the same time, Pakistan is very concerned about what might happen in Kabul if the Taliban are unable to meet certain expectations, if they're unable to put forward a government that is, to some degree, relatively speaking, acceptable, and that they may fear a backlash as well. So they also have some concerns, and they also probably know their limits, the same way that the Taliban and others have to know their limits. In Afghanistan, it's all about how to balance things out.